بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. وقال ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أدب ابنك فإنك مسؤول عن ولدك ماذا أدبته وماذا علمته. Respected elders and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, it is the day of Jumu'ah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has afforded us yet another opportunity to witness this Mubarak day. This is truly a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us yet another Eid, a day where we can send salutations upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a day where we can send abundant durood, where we can link up with our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So while sitting here, we should try and engage in abundant durood. Send durood upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for this durood is presented in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And it is presented by name, that so and so has sent durood upon you, O Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So what a great honor it will be on the day of Qiyamah that we come to the Hawd al-Kawthar and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam recognizes us by our name due to the abundant durood that we send upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So small action, but what great consequences, or what a great result there can be just by sending durood upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with this significant, greatest bounty of Imaan. This Imaan is such that if a person has even an iota of it in his heart, he can be the worst of believers as far as his actions is concerned. He can have lots of shortcomings as far as his actions is concerned. But if he has that one iota of Iman, that he believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then eventually after a cleansing period of hellfire, even that person will enter into Jannah. Allah is so merciful that even that person will enter into Jannah. And a person can be a non-Muslim. A person can be a non-Muslim, but he does not have Iman in his heart, not even one dot of Iman in his heart. He can be greatest from the akhlaq point of view. He can have many good deeds in his account. Charity, helping the poor, seeing to his neighbors, fulfilling the rights of his family. He can have all the good that he wants in this world. But he did not recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He has not accepted Islam as his deen. Then this person who outwardly is of extreme good character, but he does not have Iman, he is not even equal to that Muslim who is the worst person but he has an iota of Iman in his heart. So how great a favor it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, that a person has the ability to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his Rabb, and a person has the ability to take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as his Rabb. This is how the great bounty Iman is. Therefore we should protect this Iman. We should do those actions which uphold this Iman. We should try and increase this Iman. And if there are shortcomings, we are all human beings, we are all weak in our nature. None of us is born perfect. We all have some shortcomings. Whenever we transgress the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, immediately we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. Hadith mentions that a person murdered 99 people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was still willing to forgive that person. Allah was still willing to forgive that particular person. So any deed that we have, misdeed that we have, any sin that we have, do not lose hope. Do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is there for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. But carry out good actions. Try and leave that sin. Try and eradicate that sin from our hearts. One of the greatest bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with is our deen, our families and our children. Our deen, our families, our children and us as Muslims as a community. Our children are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like how our children, we try and take care of every need of theirs. We see that as far as the schooling is concerned, we try and make sure that at the beginning of the year, our children are in the best of schools. As far as the sporting activity is concerned, we make sure that they are involved in the best sporting activity. As far as the wealth of the child is concerned, we try to make sure that we're fulfilling the need of the child. But even a more greater need than that, even a more greater need than that in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even more weightier than that, and a greater responsibility than that, a greater responsibility than taking care of the nourishment of our children, is that of protecting the iman of our child, is that of protecting the iman of our children. That what actions are we taking? What actions are we taking to protect the iman of us, our families and our children? We know it is that time of the year. Maybe last week the matric results got released, and alhamdulillah many Muslims perform very well, academically performing well, and that is a good thing, that they perform well academically, they do well in whichever fields they are. But let's ask ourselves one question, that we are very proud when it comes to the academics, that so many of our children achieved an A in matric, so many of our children got bachelor pass, so many of our children are accepted now in university, and they are going to be studying further, and alhamdulillah, that's good, that's on its place. But ask ourselves the question, how many of our children have graduated in matric in maktab? How many of our children have graduated, have passed through grade 10, 11 and 12 in maktab? Whereas this is the first question that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us with regards to our children, that what dini education, what dini upbringing did you give your child? In our times it's very rare. Many makatib only have till grade 7, till grade 8, and a very good maktab in a very good area populated of Muslims may have till grade 9, 10 and 11. But this is a serious concern. This is a serious concern, that what is our mindset towards the maktab of our child? What is our mindset towards the Islamic education of our child? If for schooling we can be proud when they get their matric, and alhamdulillah, very good for them. Where is the balance in terms of their deen? Where is the balance in terms of their deen? And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to question us with regards to our children. That what sort of Islamic education that we gave to our children. If we give our children the entire world, and alhamdulillah, every parent should aspire to do that. That he should aspire to look after his child as far as his worldly needs are concerned, as far as his wealth is concerned, as far as his business is concerned, as far as his housing is concerned, as far as his wife and children is concerned. Every person, every parent should see to the need of the child. But what about the dini education of the child? What about the dini education of our children? Do we have the same enthusiasm towards the dini upbringing of our child like we have to see into their dunya? So this is where there is a mismatch. This is where there is an imbalance in society. And as much as we are proud that many people are reverting to Islam, and many people are entering into the fold of Islam, at the same time on a weekly, monthly basis, we are getting cases, we are getting news of youngsters who are born into Muslim homes leaving the fold of Islam. Youngsters born into a Muslim home, born as Muslims, born in good backgrounds, born in good Islamic homes, but because the dini upbringing of the child wasn't there, the child wasn't enrolled in a maktab system. And where is the first maktab? The first maktab starts from the home. The first maktab starts in the lap of the mother. The first maktab starts with the father being a role model to the child. That the child sees that my father goes for salah. That the child sees that my father reads his Quran. That the child sees that when my father and mother are in need, the first place they go to is the musalla. So this is the first maktab of the child, that in front of us in our homes. What sort of example are we giving to our children? We all have masjid. Parents even have shortcomings. But what sort of example are we setting for our children in our own homes? Are we even communicating to our children? We know that as a community, as a Muslim community, we are going through a social degeneration. We are going through a social degeneration as far as bringing up our children is concerned. Many homes are there where father and son cannot even communicate. When father and son, father and daughter, mother and daughter, they cannot even communicate. When there's a problem with the child, then we have to find a Moulana to speak to our child. When there's a problem with the daughter, no, we need to find an uncle who maybe speaks from a different angle to our daughter. Perhaps she may understand. Whereas, had the parent taken the correct steps from a young age and given the child the correct upbringing from a young age, then the first person the child should go to speak to when they have a problem is the father and mother. That, oh my beloved father, I have this problem, I have this issue, and open up to the father so the father can address the issue. So this communication as far as our children is concerned, let us ask ourselves, me myself first, that when we enter the homes, how much time do we spend with our children? We have children in our homes, maybe of a young age, maybe of an old age. Is everyone sitting in their home, in their own world? everybody having breakfast, lunch and supper at a different time. Everybody is sitting on their own gadgets, their own instruments. How much actual time do we have where we're sitting face to face as a family and we're having productive communication with our children? Productive discussions with our children. That, oh my child, what is happening in your life? How was your day today? How was school today? How was madrasa today? How was work today? Did you encounter any challenges? Open up to me of things that you are seeing in this world. Are we having those discussions on a daily basis with our children? A person once said to me, very affluent person from Durban, and a very busy person as well. But he told me that I make it a point to go to madrasa and school as a father to drop off my child and pick up my child. So even if it means going in the morning, I go and I drop off my child at school. Afternoon, I go and I pick up my child from school. Then I go to work again. Time for maktab comes. I go and I drop my child to maktab. The time when maktab dismisses, I personally go to the maktab. I pick up and I drop off my child. So I asked him, but you can afford getting a driver. There are many others in your area who go to the same school, who go to the same maktab. They can do some sort of a love club. It will save you the hassle. He says, that's the time that I get to communicate with my child. The time when I'm going and I'm taking my child to school, or picking up my child from school, or taking my child to maktab, or picking up my child from maktab. I value that time more than my work. I value that time more than the business and everything else. It's more than my wealth. Because it is a time where I'm one-on-one as a father with my child, and I'm speaking to my child. And it's a time where the child who has been affected by something which may have happened in the class, something that has happened in the child's world, something that has happened in the child's environment, the first place they're going to show it is when they sit back in the car when they are picked up from school, when they sit back in the car when they are picked up from maktab. So I make sure that as a father, I'm the first one that my child speaks to. I'm the first one who sees the face of my child and recognizes that, no, something's not right on my child's face today. So how many of us are giving that time? Some of us are constrained as far as work is concerned. But those of us who have the ability to at least do 1 or 2 of the rounds of school or maktab, are we giving our children that time? So the first maktab that starts is our home, is the lap of the parent. And we know when a child is born. When a child is born, what is the first thing that we do to the child? We give adhan in the ears of the child. And then we give iqamah in the other ear. And then the second thing that we do is we do tahniq of the child. We take a small piece of kajur, we take it to a pious person. There's a sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dua is read on there, it is chewed, and then it is placed into the palate of the child. Now what is the reason behind this? This is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is that the qualities of that pious person who went to for tahniq to take that kajur, his qualities are imbibed in the child. And the reason why adhan is given in the ears also, at the time where the child is born, is from that age where the child is a moment old, 1 second old, 5 minutes old, already the dini education of the child is starting. Already the dini education of the child is starting. Already the link of the child is being built to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to question ourselves that in our homes, what is the dini environment in our home? Is there a dini environment in our home in the first place? Is the Quran being recited at home? Are the parents modeling reciting Quran in front of the children? Are the parents sending durood upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is there maybe a specific place in our home? All these things are very important to do with regards to a mindset of a child. Where there is a specific place where we go and we read salah, where we go and we read Quran, where we go and we make our adhkar, we make dhikr, we make dua in front of our children. So is that maktab there at home? Is that Islamic upbringing there at home where the child can see that my parent is linked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that my parent is building his connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then is that communication line open between me and my child, that I can speak to my child? Have I given that my child the time at the correct age when the child needs my time? The child needs our time when the child is from the age 3 to 13 years old. Once the child reaches the age of maturity, then the child is not our child. Yes, as far as our children is concerned, it will be called my son, called my daughter. But now that person has grown into an adult. They're no more going to listen to you like how they would listen to you when they're of a young age. Now they have friends. Now they're in an environment. Now there's social media. Now there's different attacks on the Imaan. And the attack that on the Imaan is far more today than when we were growing up. So very important for us to communicate with our children, to see that the upbringing of our children is correct. And to teach our children from a young age that they are teachable at all times. Our children should never grow up with this arrogance that I can do anything to anyone because my father is so and so, because I have so much wealth, because I belong to such and such family that I can speak to anyone anyhow. And when I'm corrected, then I will take it up with that person. I will sort that person out. As parents, we need to teach our children that if any elder can correct you, then we take that correction. Hazrat Mufti Ibrahim Saloojee Sahab Damat Barakatuh said that one of the reasons why in today's time we cannot correct anyone. We cannot correct nowadays, even in the masjid, you correct somebody else's child, what happens? A fight happens in the masjid. A teacher in school corrects the child, maybe came across a bit harsh. Sometimes there are incidents where it goes overboard, but next day fight between the parent and the teacher. The uncle corrects the child, next day there's a fight between the brothers. Moulana mentions that the reason for this is because we have lost our social fabric, or the fabric of our social structure. That in today's time, as brothers, as sisters, we do not visit one another. How often do we meet our brothers? How often do we meet our sisters? There's no muhabba in families. So when there's no muhabba in our families, how will our children take directive from someone else? How will our children take directive from their uncles? How will our children take directive from their aunties? They'll never take it. Because they do not have any ta'alluq, they do not have any relationship with their uncles and aunties. And this is in the physical going and meeting them. In the old days, this would happen that every weekend, father would jump in the car, would take his children around, visit all the aunties, visit all the old people in the family, and make sure that there's some relationship which is going. Therefore, there was respect. The child had respect for the elder. In today's time, this is gone away. That aspect of visiting is not even there. So the first aspect that we have to see as parents is that in our homes, what sort of environment of deen is there? What sort of maktab teaching is there to our children? And the mindset of us today, and sometimes these are just statements, but we need to pick up on these statements. And these statements mean a lot. A child who is of 2 years old, if he's dressed the way a disbeliever is dressed, if he's dressed the way a disbeliever is dressed, people make the comment, oh, he's so cute, he's looking so nice, he's wearing such a nice t-shirt, such a nice trouser. But if the child at 2 years old, if the parent or the mother has to dress the child with a topi, with a kurta, what sort of comments we hear? The child is still so small, why are you putting him in that garb? So this is our mindset. These are the comments that we are making. Whereas the education of the child, the bringing up of the child, the maktab of the child starts from home. That what sort of dini education am I giving my child? If there are deficiencies in this regard, then the time is now for us as parents, mothers and fathers, to correct this at home, to change our environment at home, to ensure that we have a dini mahol, a dini environment at home. The second very important thing is that we should enroll our child in a maktab system. Enroll our child in a maktab system. And the reason we are speaking of it today is this: it is the beginning of the year. We are placing our child, or we have perhaps already placed our child, or we have not placed our child, or we have looked at convenience and looked at what suits us and what works around our timetable and have made decisions accordingly. That our children need to be enrolled in a maktab system where they are given proper Islamic education. Comes in a hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Ihfadillah yahfad." That protect the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you. Many a time we have this misconception that what are they learning in the maktab? I can teach them that as a parent at home. I can get someone to come home and teach that to the child. That they are learning little bit Quran, they are learning little bit hadith, that the textbooks are so simple, I can teach that to my child. While that is being taught at the maktab, this is not the reason why the child goes to the maktab. The reason the child goes to the maktab is so that the identity of the child is maintained. The child wears a kurta, the child wears a topi, the child holds the Quran at his heart, and then he walks into the maktab. Already the mindset is different. Only if the child picks up that I have to hold the Quran close to my heart, and I have to dress as a Muslim, and walk into an environment of deen, even if he just learns that one piece, already his identity of Islam is being built. That is sufficient for the child. The child's Imaan will be protected. In Pakistan, they did a survey. They did a survey in parliament. There's a Moulana who is very senior there in parliament for many years, over 40 years. His father was also involved in parliament. So they did a survey of the parliamentarians who went to maktab and those who did not go to maktab. They gave them a questionnaire to fill out. And they found from there that those who went to maktab as individuals, they still had some outlook of deen in them. They still had some outlook of deen. They still had that concern for deen in them. And those who did not go to maktab, they were already very far away from the straight path. Mufti Taqi Uthmani Damat Barakatuh mentions that 30-40 years ago he was invited to a place in America for a seminar and a function on Islamic education. And when he went there was a Lebanese person who was his host, and he was sitting and talking with this Lebanese person, And at that time, there weren't many Islamic institutes in America. And they were talking on how to revive the maktab system as people are leaving the fold in Islam one after the other. In droves, they are leaving the fold of Islam. So Moulana then went back to his house after Isha and he was relaxing. This Lebanese person came, knocked on his door, and he told Moulana, I need you to realize the importance of the maktab. That how important it is in our area. That if we can just get our community to call themselves Muslims, forget reading salah, forget making dua, just to recognize that they are Muslims, and he was saying this with tears in his eyes, then this will be sufficient. He says our Muslims have gone so far away from the teachings of deen, so far away from the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no practical sunnah left in their lives. If they can just say that I am a Muslim through this maktab system, then that will be sufficient. Just if that small identity of Islam can come in. On the other hand, if the child does not go to maktab, then the great deficiencies are noticed in the Islam of the child, in the practical application of Islam in the life of the child. And how sad it is to see today that because of sporting activity, because of extramural activity, because of tuition, we give preference to those things over the maktab. At the time when the child now is going into grade 6, the child is going into grade 7, the child is now becoming baligh, a time where the child needs the maktab the most, a time where the child needs an alim the most, or an alima the most, to teach him the basics of deen, him or her the basics of deen. At that time, the child is being removed from the maktab. At that time, the child is being taken out from the maktab. So what sort of Islam can we expect from the child when the child grows up? Will the child grow up as a good Muslim? Will the child grow up as a person who has an identity of Islam? Or will the child grow up questioning the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where the child in grade 4 once said to me in the classroom, and these are questions that our children are asking. And imagine they are taken out of the maktab and now they are left unanswered. These questions are left unanswered. That Moulana, what if everything Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us is a lie? What if everything Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us is a lie? So now you have to answer this. You have to answer these questions that the child is innocent. The child will ask questions. The child is exposed to things on social media. But at this critical juncture, we make the wrong decision to remove our child from the maktab. Then what sort of indication is that on the amount of concern we have for our child's Islamic education? That is why Ibn Umar radiyallahu anhu says, أَدِّبْ إِبْنَكَ فَإِنَّكَ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ وَلَدِكَ مَاذَا أَدَّبْتَ وَمَاذَا عَلَّمْتَ. That teach your children akhlaq, teach your children good character, teach your children Islamic education. فَإِنَّكَ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ وَلَدِكَ. Each one of us will be questioned with regards to our children. مَاذَا أَدَّبْتَ وَمَاذَا عَلَّمْتَ. That what adab did I teach my child? What character did I teach my child? Does my child have any character? Speak to those who have gone to Durban in these holidays, in the Umhlanga area. What sort of akhlaq do our young Muslim boys and girls have? If you have to go there, it's even shy to say that these people are Muslims. مَاذَا أَدَّبْتَ وَمَاذَا عَلَّمْتَ. And what did you teach your child as far as the child's dini upbringing is concerned? Hadith mentions something to that effect, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's special mercy goes on that parent who teaches his family and his children the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who speaks to his family of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's special mercy descends upon them. And that hadith continues something to this effect, that on the day of Qiyamah, if the child wasn't given the correct education, the correct dini education, then the child will drag the father in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say that this is the person who did not give me the correct upbringing of deen. This is the person who did not give me the correct upbringing of deen. And as mentioned in the start, that alhamdulillah, our children are progressing academically. They are getting their distinctions. They are qualifying as far as the school degrees is concerned. They are becoming professionals, alhamdulillah. But where can we say that my child finished matric as maktab? Very rare. Maybe 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000 can say that my child spent 12 years in maktab. My child spent 10 years in maktab. My child spent 11 years in maktab. So our mindset needs to change, and the thing that we give importance to needs to be brought in, that what sort of Islamic education are we giving to our children? In Sudan, in certain areas in Togo, in this time, in our current time, there is such an uprising of deen happening that entire areas are Hufaz of the Quran Kareem, entire localities. There's one place in Sudan, 20 years ago, a Jamaat visited there. The entire area memorized the Quran Kareem. That means the daughters, the mothers, the sons, everyone. There is no non-Hufaz living in that locality. One alim was telling me that he traveled to Kenya. And in Kenya they have a specific school where by the age of 9 years old, everybody is a Hafiz. That from the age 7 to 9, they memorize the Quran, and now because they memorize the Quran, their acumen is gone so high that they start school at the age of 9, and by the age of 17, they have completed school. So this is in the poor areas, this is the interest that is going towards their deen. But look at our areas, and I question myself first, that what are we doing with our children? Can we safely say that I have given my child the correct upbringing? Hazrat Moulana Zakaria Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi, we know his father kept him very close to him. Very close to him till the age of 11. He wasn't allowed to read salah, two salahs next to the same person in the masjid. This was the tarbiyat that his father had given to him. And at the age of 11, his father now sent him to another place to study. And he wrote a letter to his father out of love for his father, thanking him for what he had done for him. The father replied to him in two simple sentences, that, "Oh Zakaria, I am now confident that your ta'alluq and your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is built. You can go throughout the world and nothing will affect you." This was at the age of 11 years old. Are we confident with regards to our children that we can put them in any environment and the deen and the iman can be protected? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that we can realize the importance of the maktab. Al-ilmu fi sighar kan-naqshi fil hajar. That ilm learned at a young age, it is like a stamp which is put on a stone. That stamp which is put on a stone, it can never disappear. What is taught at a young age, it can never disappear. Humble appeal is those of us who have children, put them in a maktab system, in the closest maktab to our homes. Do not look at convenience. Do not look at online. Do not look at all these other options. But put them in the environment of maktab, in the environment of deen. They can learn heart to heart the way it was taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that their Islamic identity can be preserved. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all. Grant one and all the tawfiq to practice.